Hey, David,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to turn the sound off and the view off.
Okay. We'll just,
everybody at the same table.
Hello. I'm staring at
Mike,
your
hey,
back.
Jim.
Okay.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you.
It's like, did we hire another person?
Good, how are you? How's it going?
I'll be in Vegas tonight.
Was in Columbus, Nebraska.
Sure. Absolutely.
Of course, after you said this, that it was going there. I remember.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
That's right. Okay. It's a lot to remember.
Well, oh, yeah, for me, it's pretty,
Muchas gracias.
it's a very small little nugget of information that gets to stick.
Well, I know.
That's from Glenn. Are you going to do it? Has it been around over the days?
I think she had.
Okay, that's what I was gonna suggest.
Yes.
Okay.
If you want to, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Go ahead.
Debbie's got the big,
Mm,
Debbie's got the big desk.
Well, you can see him better.
oh, I was also.
Been in charge.
Clint wanted to move the discussion budget meeting because it says we're gonna set
They're connected.
it later because we have decisions before we can set. it.
Yeah.
I'll move that too. Oh, I don't know if it's been. Oh, there's a Dia. I was going, there's no outside people now.
Dave.
Just Dave.
Hi, Dave.
He's like, I don't know if he's in the fishbowl or we are.
Which one's really in the cage?
Uh-oh.
We're going to go ahead and call the meeting to order. Welcome, and if you would all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, thank you for joining us this evening. It is a absolutely lovely day outside. Excuse me. Reaching down. And we have a very special thing to begin our meeting. And as you all know, Dr. Burke, this is his last meeting. And he hasn't had quite enough
You're not going to schedule an extra meeting,
trophies.
are you?
Yes, I'm going to have 6 more meetings before July 1. Hasn't had enough accolades. And there's never enough. But we wanted to let you know that as a board, there it is, we went ahead and we wanted to make a special thing for you.
Oh, wow.
For your retirement. And it says, if you'll wait, we'll stand up and do everything. It says, Dr. John K. Burke, in appreciation of your 18 years of outstanding leadership as superintendent of Haysville, Kansas, USD 261's wonderful school district, through the work that you have done and the person you are, you have made an amazing impact on our students, staff, and community. Thank you.
Oh, gosh. You're welcome.
Yes, I did want to ask the
You want us
entire board if
over
we
the wall?
could to get some pictures with
Oh,
Dr. Burke.
okay.
Oh.
We all get to stand with him. Where do you want us? By the yellow?
I'm gonna wait, tell us
The
where to
window?
go.
Yeah.
Okay, okay, all right.
Just like my wife.
You know, I have that too.
That's a compliment.
Oh, is it?
Where did you-
Where do you want us?
Just outside, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
caption is herding cats.
Need Greg on the other side to balance us off.
Should we stand again?
What's that?
Should we stand again?
Just went to the restroom. It's okay.
Hey.
That was for Greg.
Oh, okay, good. Wow. Okay.
And this is the outside piece.
Gotcha. All
All
right.
kinds of
Some
pieces.
assembly required.
Thank you, Debbie, for helping us get that accomplished.
I must be the least attentive person in the whole world. This committee of 11 people has been meeting all year long.
Oh, they have. I think they started last spring, though.
And I had no idea.
You just
Even
thought they were
Debbie was
taking
on it, and
Thursday
she was
mornings
gone.
off.
I don't even know what excuse you used.
We read engraving a lot.
Well, you guys are sneaky, but I'm glad.
Okay. Well, we're excited about that. Thank you. And now back to the agenda. I know we have listed on here to set a budget meeting date and time. I wanted to see if we wanted to move that to 5.0 for the truth and taxation conversation, because I think we have to make some decisions before we set a date for a meeting. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so we will move 1.3-ish to 5.0. Okay, thank you. And another change, I wanted to ask, do we need to add the paving bids on as 6.5? Because I did not see it on the agenda, but it's in the documents.
Yes, and that's what we plan to come in here to amend the agenda to add paving bids to 6.5.
Okay. Thank you.
Do you need a motion?
And I believe there are also updated minutes. Is that?
Yes,
not
there
correct?
are corrected minutes in front of you. You still have them. I mean, you already have them. But we found some corrections we needed to make today.
Just to make sure they have it. Yeah.
So yeah, you should have that in front of you. And there was a couple of personnel items added to the website. So if you were there recently, you've already gotten them. But I believe there's also at your table. And so I don't want, where's the agenda? Sorry. Yeah, let's wait just a second to make that motion because I'm acting like I'm in order, but I'm not. Okay, make sure I've got all my things. That is super. And one thing I wanted to just bring attention to, I was so excited this year. We had graduations. We got to attend them physically in person, and it was really nice. The alternative high school, they never cease to amaze me, the things that those students overcome and achieve, and they do it so quickly. It's like once you give them the opportunity to run, they fly. And I think that's just absolutely amazing. And Campus High School was gorgeous. It was fantastically orchestrated. It was shorter. We missed our music, but I think some people might have been all right with that. And then the middle school promotions, the parades, those were a lot of fun. And I'm sure we will talk about that further on down the road, but it seemed like we received a lot of good feedback about that style of celebration for our middle school students. And I know I certainly enjoyed it. So that's my stuff. That's my announcements. And Dr. Burke.
Well, Dr. Norton and I have been named to County Commissioner Sarah Lopez's Citizen Advisory
I
Board.
saw that. Congratulations.
Very good.
Good job, guys. Advise well.
Yes, and then we received this from Capturing Kids' Hearts for the 2020-2021 school year, recognizing us as a national showcase district. And as you may remember, in the last 4 years, we've received this honor 3 times, and no other school district in the country has. So it's a real separator. It's inscribed here, don't live within your abilities, live beyond your dreams. So I'd like to present this to you.
Thank you.
Where do you want us?
I don't know.
Okay, over there.
We took everything off the walls. We used to keep the awards up on the walls. What did we do with those? Where'd they go?
We have them.
Okay.
They're all in his.
I see.
The plan prior to pandemic was to start focusing and bringing in student artwork. And then we had a pandemic and we didn't have the big art show. And we didn't have the other one, see beyond the labels, and all of those are student art generating events. And we didn't get to have any of those.
Yeah, we should find it. We should find it.
Yes. And that's all I have.
That's all you got for the last one?
Sorry. When the students and the staff are mostly gone, it really quiets down around here. And everyone else taking vacation every other day.
It seems like, yeah, it's a nice summer for people. They're taking serious vacations.
Yes, they are.
Already planning our next year's vacation.
Are you? Well, I have a certain son who's in Sweden most of the time, who is very frustrated that we have not yet taken a vacation to Sweden.
You ought to do that.
I said, well, that's number 2 on our next list. First, we have a son who's graduating in New York. We'll do that one, and then we'll talk about Sweden. So, all right, Superintendent, thank you. And we do not have a campus high school student council report this evening because they are off for the summer. Do we have new and good?
I kind of just merged that with my report.
I did too. All right. Super, hearing none. Let's go to 1.7, the amending of the agenda, approval of the amended agenda
Now
as
would you-
presented.
I move that we amend the agenda to move 1.3 to after 5.0, and that we add 6.5, the paving bids. Is there anything I missed?
Corrected minutes.
Corrected minutes and
Additional.
additional consent agenda?
Yeah.
Is that
personnel.
everything then?
Correct.
Second.
See if I'm close.
All righty. I have I should write that down. A motion by Norton and a second by Bennett to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And district personnel time. I do see, and we're going to have to talk about this at some point, that we have changed our format of our agenda and minutes back to just listing them in here instead of with the explanation with COVID. So we've taken that explanation out. Okay. So am I interpreting then that we are saying, yes, we are now having open meetings again?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something we need to vote on as a board? I think
know.
we
Did we vote?
voted not to do it in person. I'm pretty sure we did.
Well, we voted at the last meeting to follow the CDC guidelines, which that's part of the CDC.
Yeah, it's true.
That would cover it.
Okay. All right. I just want to make sure we had that in order.
While we're talking about that, we've been streaming the meetings, even though we've come back live. It's up to you all if you want to continue doing that or if you want to stop that. I know there's people in the community that actually watch it. And it doesn't cost us anything, so.
Better off to stream it live and right in front of everybody. Not that we do anything to hide anyway, it's just
Oh, no.
nobody ever shows up.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Doesn't cost us anything.
Clint, do you or David have an idea of how many people actually watch? I mean, do you have that?
Yeah, we can collect that from each one. It'd just be the number of views.
I'd just be interested to see if it's being used.
I've never actually checked it.
I check every now and again,
Do ya?
it's between 20 and 50 people usually, unless it's a big deal. We're voting on something, then there's
But we had some
150 or so.
some that hit 1,000 and
I
some.
was
I'm
gonna
sure.
say.
I'm
I was
sure.
gonna
I'm
say.
sure.
There
I
have been
felt
times in
Those were our
streaming has
record
not
years
been
or months.
as beneficial as
Jennifer
other
says we
times.
have 11 watching it this time.
Okay. Which is 11 more than we
If it's
had
being
probably
used,
at this
yeah.
time last year or 2 years ago.
With the comments turned off, I don't think there's.
Okay. So do I hear a consensus from the board to continue streaming?
That's fine with me.
Is that fine? Do we need to make a motion on that?
No,
I don't
Okay.
think so.
Thank you.
it's part of our operating procedures now.
All right. And, all right, so that brings us to 3.0, the consent agenda. As we ended, there was a correction in the previous minutes, and there is some additional personnel information. I did have a question, Dr. Schutte, about the paper bid.
Mhm.
Is there a specific, how do you choose who to send the bids to? Who, you just open it up and if somebody,
No, we have several vendors that have contacted us, and then some that have gone out of the paper business. So we send it to more than just the 3, but these are the 3 that we get information back from.
and 2 of them didn't even bid on the whole project. They
They-
just bid on
Many of
white
them
paper.
can't. Many of them can't. And the winning bidder, while they were not the lowest overall, they had the lowest all around, and the difference of being 300 and some odd dollars will actually save that in shipping.
Mhm.
So in essence, they are the lowest bid.
Are they local?
No,
Okay,
but they are
There's
Kansas
less-
based.
okay.
So-
Um,
So do we not have a local paper? Does Southwest Paper and Butler no longer here?
No, they're here, but they don't necessarily provide this type of paper.
So what's so special about this paper?
Nothing super. They just have changed their business models, and they provide, like Southwest Paper actually provides more custodial cleaning supplies, those kinds of things. They kind of moved to that side of the business.
The only reason, I mean, I was just seeing the 3 different bids and it kind of feels like our Bluebird challenges.
No specification. This is general white paper, same mills as anybody else, and we send them out. And
In the,
last year, I believe we even had ESDAC was in the race. This year they weren't in the race. They didn't want to. I don't know if they didn't make enough off theirs.
how broad is our reach when we select who can?
I believe we have a total of 6 companies that we know of that sell paper or still were continuing to sell paper.
Which should have given you ample
Yes.
options.
We
Okay,
also compare to the state bids, and these are still lower.
they're lower. Okay.
Yeah.
Were there any other questions on the consent agenda?
I have 2.
All right.
How many teachers are we still short?
6.
So we're in relatively, under the circumstances,
Correct.
not bad off. Okay. And the other question I've got, you know how I am with acronyms. What's JGCA?
That's not an acronym.
That is the way the policies are categorized. So that's a specific policy, board policy. And I hadn't studied the policy, so I don't know.
J
which
is for students, I think.
Yeah.
And it's KASB's notation system for policies.
Yes.
So just like this
There is no rhyme or
particular
reason to it. I'm just
item
telling you.
is 3,
They could use numbers, but they use
I spent
letters.
3 days trying to figure that out.
right, no, just
What
like
it called.
this agenda item is 3.0, 3.4. That would be its identification notations.
That is correct.
So
Based on.
When-
Again?
we're at consent agenda, which is 3.0, and 3.4 is
Right.
the wellness policy.
Right.
So 3.4 or 3.0, 3.4
Right.
would be the notation. So for our policies, which is what, 500, 600 pages? I don't know,
If
tremendous.
it were printed out, but
Yeah,
we
Now,
don't
is this sections in the policy? Is that
Yes.
what- Okay, thank you.
that's how they're categorized.
So it's section G, subsection G, category C.
Something
line
like
A or
that.
Something?
It can be JG, but yes.
And there's also a dash R.
And there's
Oh,
also a
don't
dash
confuse
R.
me enough. I got
It
enough
gets,
problems.
it gets better.
It does.
Thank you.
Tom, you do know it's online. It's
What's a line?
online, the policy
My phone
manual.
is?
You know what I'm saying. You can look it up.
All right. Do we have any other questions? All right,
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Norton, a second by Gibson to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Okay, I've done that. Okay, treasurer's report.
I was just getting ready for the code. Treasury reports is the same payables.
So unless we have specific questions right now for Mr. Schutte, we're going to go ahead and choose whether or not to vote on treasurer's report.
My only question, if I could,
Mhm.
the list of waiting on funds just gets longer and longer and longer. Is there anything?
It'll all be cleared up this month except for the federal funds.
Thank you. I'm being hopeful,
Well, I say it'll be cleared up this month. Technically,
technically.
it'll be cleared up in July when we receive the final payment, but they make us violate our accounting practices and date it back to June 30th.
Gotcha. Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
Giving me that look.
Please do.
Yes, I move to approve the treasurer's report as presented. See if I can say
Second.
Wow, this is so much easier when I can see you guys and speak. Guess whose voice I'm hearing. I have a motion by Norton and a second by Crawford to approve the treasurer's report as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 5-1. Mr. Fenster voted no. Thank you. And
Then just a note on that, just as a reminder, on the treasurer's report, I know it does look like, especially in May, for our school district, that is one of our most expensive months, where we pay accruals and we do final payouts and those kinds of things in May. So we have really 3 payrolls in that month, but it is one of our smallest months in terms of revenue. So that's where if you remember correctly, last year, we even added some language to our negotiated agreement that we watched the level of those funds in the month of May very closely.
okay. And we came out on the right side.
Yep.
Okay.
Still good.
Thank you. 5.0, we're going to talk about the COVID-19 report.
Well, there's really not a lot of updates, but I wanted to just share a reminder, because this reminder came from Cedric County, which is about quarantine guidelines. And I know there's a lot of discussions out there about where we're going to start back to school, guidelines for masking, and the science is showing, again, it's predominantly airborne. If you are fully vaccinated, they're having very great success rates, even with the variants. So we're encouraging people to be fully vaccinated. We're still encouraging that. And we are currently following the CDC guidelines on wearing a mask and social distancing. We're still encouraging in any of those situations, depending upon your level of vaccination, what you should be following in the buildings. But the quarantine guidelines still apply. And while we haven't updated the numbers over the summer activities, because it's a little difficult to track students, for example, they come to a sports activity, summer camp, or they're coming to weights, but we have had some students test positive for COVID already this summer with those positive tests, and we've submitted tests to the Wichita State facility. They're still providing us their lab services for free at no cost. And we're still tracking that. We have health staff that are working our ESY and are working our K2 program, summer programs, and including our Spark program. And we're monitoring any students that call in sick, and we're still doing follow-up calls. We're doing all of those things because the quarantine guidelines that we had during the year have not changed. And we asked specifically the question to Cedric County, is there a plan to change those guidelines? And the guidelines, well, get a little convoluted based on an individual's status. It basically says, if you are fully vaccinated or if you've had COVID within the last 6 months, if you're not showing symptoms, even if you've been exposed, you don't have to quarantine. But if you start to show any symptoms, then the 14-day quarantine still applies, and we're still required to send the letter notification that Cedric County has given us about quarantine to the families. We still report that information back to Cedric County so they have all of that. And the adjustments to quarantines are still allowable. So for example, it's a 14-day quarantine. However, if you're showing no symptoms after 10 days, you can come back. On day 8, if you get a COVID test on no sooner than day 6, then you can actually come back on day 8. We're still doing all of that. And right now, those still apply. And when we start back to the school year, those currently are scheduled to still apply. She did give us the same caveat we've given a lot of people, which is it is subject to change. And we did ask specifically. So I put our questions and Cedric County's responses on the website for you all. That's what these are. These are the questions we asked specifically. And also for the public. I would like to make sure the public has this information. It's on the district website. They can click on the board packet and get this information as well. Just as a reminder that these are the orders we are still under. This is what we're still going to be subject to unless Cedric County makes a change to the quarantine guidelines.
That you said this is on the website?
Yes.
Is it identified any differently than we have here?
It's identified as the COVID presentation.
Okay, because I could not tell who the conversation was between. And so we might indicate that that is from the Cedric County Health Department, or their guidance or something along those lines, because I just couldn't figure out who it was.
Yeah, their quarantine guidelines is what we've always had to follow. There are local community health. And just as a reminder to everybody in the public, if we had a case of measles, there are quarantine guidelines for that as well. That would come from Cedric County, notification guidelines, all of those things. We would have to follow those as well. And we do have students that have some exemptions to immunization, including measles, and those students would be required to quarantine. It's very simple. It's the same. That's all part of it. So I know Mr. Herschen, I haven't spoke a lot about this with him, but I do know he has a plan looking at the return to school and COVID and all of that. So we're not presenting any of that tonight. I know that will be developed and a recommendation will be coming. But tonight, just as a reminder where we're at, what we're currently doing with our summer activities, and we are still monitoring this.
So right now, primarily the ones wearing masks are 12 and under, or under 12.
Correct,
and
or those that are not fully vaccinated. Correct.
I'm thinking kind of more aiming toward the under 12 years old.
Sure.
So that's the recommendation by the CDC.
Correct.
That they continue to mask. And the guidance from Cedric County is that they continue to mask.
That's correct. That's the recommendation.
When we first started all these things, there was some of the regulations put in place said you can get narrower, but you can't get broader, or you can get broader, but you can't get more narrow. What is the situation with these right here? Do we have the option?
Yes, you as the board have full control. These are only recommendations. So if you vote to say we're just going to be opened up and not worry about this, you could do that.
What are the consequences of that?
Well, as the attorney had advised previously, it just depends on what happens and, the liability potential of not following current medical recommendations from the predominant community. There are those. I mean, it's so hard to predict.
But essentially, aside from any liability challenges, we would treat it as if like we had a measles exposure.
Correct.
So anybody who was identified or exposed, they would quarantine.
We would still have to follow these quarantine
Right.
guidelines. That is correct.
And I'm not interested in any more people getting sick. However, I would like to hear some logic about keeping the mask versus letting the mask go. It's rough.
How much longer is summer school?
They finished the July 7th, and there have been zero issues with summer school with it.
And we don't have any other
So
class, sorry.
we voted up through or agreed or concurred up through July 7th with mask in the summer school
Yeah.
venues or,
What the board voted on was to follow the recommendations. And so that's what we're doing. Following the CDC
well,
recommendations.
and I know that it's been evolving, or as my recall is that way back when we selected a color, but we also argued over KASB, Cedric County, CDC.
Yep.
It appears that we've landed on Cedric County.
Yep. And that is the current recommendation.
I do know that in the Sedgwick County area, there is now a clinical trial for kids younger than 12.
That's correct.
I don't know when exactly that's going to come through, but I know my daughter-in-law was telling me about that one.
There are some speculation from the medical community that later this summer that there may be approval for those under 12 as well.
So
I'm
that
sure
may
they
be
want
something
school
we
to
need to know
start
about.
normally. I know I do.
So your recommendation, administration recommendation is to status quo.
Well, at this point in time, yes, I know and Mr. Hirsch is here, he can speak. I know he has plans to develop a recommendation for the board.
Yeah, I heard you say that earlier, which will come in July, hopefully, which will prepare us for August,
Correct.
Opening of schools. But again, we still have, what, I guess 6 or 7 days. Well, whatever
2
today
weeks.
is. Yeah, thank you. So if we
Well-
changed it, it would be for a few days. If we say go maskless, we would change it for a few class days.
Correct.
Correct. Do these guidelines, anything that goes on in school that's related to children, these are the guidelines that we're talking about.
Not
And also
not just-
staff.
Yeah, not just children. These are employees. And we have some employees who've made it very clear they do not wish to get vaccinated. And that's okay. And they are wearing masks.
But right now, are we in violation of anything as a school board because we're not wearing masks?
Nope.
We've
And
all
I-
been
But yet
vaccinated
we're making children 12 and below wear masks.
because they haven't been vaccinated.
Well, I understand, but there's adults that have not been vaccinated.
And many of them are wearing masks, but we're not asking. So
I'm just trying to understand the lay of the land.
Sure.
Okay, I interrupted your presentation. If you wanna-
no, that was it.
So basically, you're saying it's an honor system. If you do or do not have shots, when you're talking about employees, vendors, suppliers, whatever, it's the honor system. If they've got their shots, they don't have to wear a mask. If they haven't got their shots,
It's recommended they wear masks.
okay. So when it comes to quarantine and all that, we have to investigate
We do. And
and ask those same questions.
we do ask those same questions, but we also have access to the vaccination records at that point in time. When we do contact tracing, we do look and see if someone has been vaccinated to determine what quarantine they fall under.
Or not fall under
Or
because
not,
they're
yeah.
vaccinated.
They're fully
Okay.
vaccinated and showing no symptoms. They wouldn't have to quarantine at all.
Do you have any other questions?
I guess, Mr. Hirsch, when do you think you'll roll yours out, your suggestions?
I think-
Well, I say it'd be, school starts what day? August what?
18th.
18th. So
or
we'll have to
16th.
have it next board meeting or special board meeting.
I think the challenge that we're going to face right now, as I see it, is there is not an option for kids who choose not to come to school with, guidelines. Let's say they agree or don't agree with the guidelines and their family doesn't want them to attend. Under the previous order, you could offer a virtual component. Well, it's my understanding, we don't have a virtual school. So at this point, if a child opts out, the district has no option to educate that child, which is not good for kids.
There's no option because the state's not going to fund a virtual option.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay, again, I wanted to make sure I understand. Okay.
It's my understanding as well is that virtual is not an option for you go virtual or you go in person, as it has been. That's my understanding. We'll have all those answers for you hopefully and clear and make a recommendation. You'll be pushing it to do it by the July board meeting, but I think most certainly we could have it done by the first week of August. It's going to depend on how available staff are to participate. I think in board as well. We're going to need a few board representatives to serve on a committee and take a look at this and come back and be part of that recommendation to the board. So
Okay. And yeah,
I will tell you the mistake that, coming from Goddard, where we've gone maskless, we did it. The mistake we made, in my opinion, I don't think it's anything that's out of line, is if you're vaccinated, you don't have to wear a mask. If you're not vaccinated, you have to wear a mask. That is something we changed very quickly and simply said masks are optional. You choose to wear it or not wear it, regardless of your vaccine status. And I can tell you, but prior to that, when it was
Either or.
that's when we caught and felt like it wasn't impacted kids in a manner that wasn't good.
so that was for all ages.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's
We've gone
optional.
all, and I will tell you, we've had a committee since back in about a year ago. And on that committee, we have a couple of parents who are physicians. One's a pediatrician, one is with St. Francis in a very high position. And basically, we have followed their recommendations in working through this and getting their feedback. So they've been very active in that and providing a lot of information for us making that
Just out of
decision.
curiosity though, did they concur, agree 100% with CDC in Cedric County?
No.
Okay.
Say not if they're optional.
Say what?
Said not if they're optional.
Well, that wasn't the question. It's whether they agreed with them or not. So.
I think one thing I would also throw out there is if you look at the numbers right now, I think the last percentage I saw was yesterday. We were just under 4% countywide from Cedric County.
I thought I saw 2.7 this evening.
Yeah. COVID is always going to be there. It's like the flu. We're always going to have COVID in our system. That's just the reality of the disease. It's no different than the flu. It's no different than strep or anything else. It's always going to be there. And so I think at some point, we as a district and under the leadership of the board need to decide what that looks like moving forward for our kids. And I think one of the things that really concerns me right now, I just read this actually at the CDC website yesterday about the number of social and emotional needs in emergency room visits hospitals are seeing as a result of what the kids have been through in the last 18 months and the number of suicide attempts. And it's very alarming. Compared to the previous year, 2019, it's a significant increase.
Well, we'll look forward to working with you and getting that plan.
Yep.
Thank you. Okay. And the truth in taxation?
Okay, so you may be familiar with Senate Bill 13, as it was called, is also a substitute for House Bill 104. It changes notification when it comes to mill rate levy for school districts and really other municipalities as well. But for us, it's for our budget. And what we're looking at is what is the revenue neutral rate based on what happens to the assessed valuation to the district. So I put all this information out there for you. The recommendation is going to be to notify Cedric County that we plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate. And here's why. We're required by law to assess 20 mills for general fund. That's required under the law, 20 mills. If you look at the amount of taxes we raised with our 20 mills last year, and we got an increase in our assessed valuation, we are only going to need to raise about 18 mills this year. But under the law, we still need to assess 20 mills. So we're going to exceed the revenue neutral rate for general fund simply by following the law. Now, what's required if we notice the county of our intent to exceed this net revenue neutral rate is by July 20th, we have to send back to them, and the Cedric County has already sent us the form they would like it to be on. It separates general fund from the other funds. We have to put it together. And the idea is not even this year, but next year, if we do it, the county will have to notify each and every taxpayer what that increase in actual dollars will be. Because that's what this is talking about, the difference between the mill rate and the dollars raised. Now, in the past, I've had a discussion with one of our constituents every year, and he's a super nice guy. And he gets mad at us every year because his taxes are going up. And I explained to him that he's absolutely correct, but he should be super happy because that means the value of his property went up. And I even helped him one year protest the increase to his property tax. Showed him exactly what he had to do, gave him who to contact with the county. You can do it so many times within so many years, give him all that information. But he's always mad at us, even though our mill rate has stayed relatively stable and even gone down a few years. But because his tax dollars, the dollar amount raised, did go up, he's pretty upset. Well, that's what this is about. This is about telling the taxpayers what's happening with their value when it comes to the mill rate. Now, for us, if we have a growth in students, we've had an increase in assessed valuation, we are anticipating additional funds based on the formula for funding, because that base amount's going to $4,706 from $4,000, I think it was like $69 last year. So that's going up. We are hoping to bring in more dollars. That's how we gave a pay raise, if you remember correctly. That means we can't just assess the same mills, because this law says if we assess the same mills, we don't increase, then we bring in those same dollars. So if we said, okay, we're not going to exceed it, we're only going to assess 18 mills in general fund, which we can't legally do, I'm just telling you that. But if we said that here and we're not going to exceed it, then we'd only bring in 18 mills. We would not have the additional money to pay for the pay raises. The state would still give us our aid as an increase, but it would be smaller total amount. County would still raise the same exact tax dollars it raised this last year, and it would give us that, and we would have the exact same authority as we had last year. But if we do that, we don't have additional funds to give pay. We don't have additional funds to pay the increase in utilities. We don't have the additional funds to pay the increase in insurance costs. So my recommendation, and I put all of the information in here, exactly what it talks about. My recommendation is that we do notice the county that we plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate on our mills. That does change our timeline for budget workshop. It actually gives us more time, because we can't hold a hearing, and we have to hold 2 hearings. They can be on the same night. They do have to have separate agendas. They have to have separate notifications. So the paper will publish 2 notices of hearings, that we're doing a hearing for our budget, and we're going to do a hearing for our mill rate. Okay, so the other reason I think we should do this is sometimes, there's a delinquency rate of people paying their taxes. Sometimes somebody goes to court and they have to end up paying, and all of a sudden our assessed valuation of taxes collected actually bumps down our mill rate a little bit. When the county finally gets it all settled and they get it all collected, they know what the delinquency rate, sometimes they're like, hey, like one year, we do 8 mills in capital outlay. It was adjusted down to like 7.67 because they brought in enough taxes. We didn't need to do 8 mills to get our dollar amount. If we don't notice the county that we want to exceed it and set that a little bit higher, they won't be able to make some of those adjustments. If our tax mill rate has to go up a little bit to collect the dollars, we're capped. So we have to be careful with that.
So did they give you any explanation if they have put this into law?
Yes.
And there really is not an option to legally not choose to go above.
We would have to do 20 mills in general fund, but we could lower our mills in the other funds. No one knows, and I'm telling you, every county is doing it kind of different. I was at the budget workshop on the 16th, and we were talking about several counties, and this is the first year of it. So some counties are putting all the mills in one. Some counties are breaking each mill out. You know how Cedric County separates all 4 of ours for us, and it's on the individual taxpayers' tax statement. We got general funds there, LOBs there, capital outlays there, and bonded interest is there. All of those are separate here. There are some counties that group them all together, and so the taxpayers don't. So there's just not a consistency there. We could, however, if if we told Cedric County we're not going to exceed it, we could lower our other mills to ensure our total mills stayed the same.
20.
But that means we would then have less authority and we would not have an increase in revenue.
That's okay. I just couldn't understand. I mean, I've seen the legislature do it many times, but make a law that we can't possibly abide by.
Yes,
But I do
It
understand that
happens.
now. So there is
it happens.
technically an option.
So this would give us more time. We could then set a budget workshop in the first part of August like we've done in the past. We'd be able to hold our hearings after August 20th and be able to make sure we get both hearing notice publicized for the correct amount of time, 10 days, can't then certified for 10 days, because then the certification isn't required until October 1st, but we technically would have to conduct our budget and mill rate hearings by September 20th. So it actually extends the time if we exceed it. If we don't, we're back to the normal time, and we'll have to have a budget workshop at the end of July. Yes, ma'am.
I had a couple of questions.
Sure.
I realize this information is from the League of Kansas Municipalities
Correct.
as opposed to our schools.
That's correct.
But does this bill now say that any taxing entity has to do this? If I've got a water district that's got mill levy?
I
do
believe
they
so,
have to do
yes.
this? Okay,
I believe so.
so that we're not going to be the only ones trying
No.
to figure this mess.
No.
Okay.
And poor Cedric
That's what I
County,
can tell.
they put it all on the counties. The counties have to do the mailings. However, they are allowed to charge us for our share of the costs. And that includes mailings to our constituents. That includes staff salaries to their staff for the work they do on our behalf, all of that.
Do you have any idea what that's for?
No, and neither do they.
Okay,
They have no clue. And the mailings and all that don't have to start until next summer.
okay.
So
So maybe.
it
we'll
did
have
delay that till next summer. Now, another benefit of that, I found out at the budget workshop, because I did not realize it was written in there, if we exceed our revenue neutral rate and we notice the county, we don't have to do a second publication like we always have in the past, which in the past, we've always had to do a second publication because your assessed valuation has gone up enough that we're over the 2% of additional dollars collected. We've always had to do a second publication. And we won't if we exceed it this time.
Is it a reasonable thing to think that we're going to have to do this every year?
If we follow what we believe has happened in the past with our assessed valuation and what we really counted on with our bonds, in our bonds, we count for assessed valuation going up at a regular rate in order to be able to pay our bonds. Yes, it's reasonable to believe we are probably going to have to exceed the revenue neutral rate every year.
If nothing else, by assessed valuations always going up.
That's right.
You have some recommended dates to let the board kind of choose from?
Yes, I'm wide open as far as those. I'm back at work. But I wanted to give you this information as well, just so you could see that. Here's what Cedric County sent us. So as you can see, in general fund, last year we assessed 20 mills. In order to bring in the same dollars, we would only have to assess 18.954. However, we're going to have to assess 20 mills. And then for all the other funds, for a total of 54.447, which is, I think last year's our mill was 57. So it's, 2 point some mills less than what we assessed this current year.
Do we need to decide as a board whether we're going to put in the notice to exceed
Yes.
the
And
R&R
I
and then
asked
look at the dates?
on the 16th, June 16th at the budget workshop, I do need a board resolution to notice the county our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, if that is your choice.
Okay.
What numbers are you going to put in this form when
Well,
you left them blank? I know that you put our proposed mill levy for general funds is 20.
Yeah.
And we're going to put a date in there of our hearing and all that, but
Yeah.
you want to give us as a board a general idea?
I have no idea yet. I don't even have.
So when, is that part of our get together for a budget to help
Yes.
you develop this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You won't approve those mills. I mean, okay, I'm going to take that back, Greg, because I don't want to mislead you. I'm going to send the notice to the county and it's going to have mills on there and they're going to be over it, but it's going to be our estimate. You still, as the board, we'll have the workshop, we'll talk about the budget, you'll set the mills, you'll vote at a budget hearing on what we're publishing in the paper. You'll still do that as a board. You still have full control. It can be less than what I tell the county. It can't be more than what I tell the county.
Well, I do see a check the box here that we do not plan to exceed the revenue neutral rate. Check the box for August 25th.
That means our budget has to be ready by August 25th.
Right.
And I am not recommending that.
So when is this form have to be officially filled out?
It has to be to the county by July 20th.
So pinning you down, we have to have 1 or 2 budget hearings or whatever for us to send this letter in, don't we?
No,
I'm
that's what
confused.
tonight's about.
Huh?
That's what tonight is about. Tonight is about me asking you, can I mark yes on this form? Put 20 mils in there for general fund. For the other funds, I will have a good estimate once I get the new funding formula. I don't even have that yet. They haven't even issued it yet. When I get the new funding formula, I'll plug it in there. I'll have that. I will be glad to send the board a copy of what I'm recommending of this beforehand, but we don't meet again before this is due to the county. And what I'm telling you is that what I send to the county is the highest mill rate we can assess. We can go less. So you'll still have an opportunity to go less, but what we send to the county is the max.
And legally 20 is the.
Well, under the law, we're required to assess 20 mills. Those 20 mills don't even come to us. I mean, they what, 3 years ago or 2 years ago, the state took all the 20 mills. It only comes back to us in state aid.
Right.
So that money goes to the state, and we're required by law to assess 20 mills. So
Did
So
that
are you
answer your
considering
questions?
the other 3
Not really, but
holes there to,
well, for example, capital outlay will most likely be 8 mills. We normally assess as 8 mills. But our bonded interest does change based on our bond payments and what's happened with the assessed valuations.
would it be wise if you think that we're gonna need less, is to plug the higher numbers in now, adjust that down as we do that?
That's exactly my plan.
I mean, it doesn't make sense to put the lower number in there because we're gonna be nice to folks and then find out, whoops, now we got a problem.
But we can't go over it at that point in time. So yes, these numbers will be higher.
All right, thank you.
But I want you to understand this is a notice to the county, our intent to exceed it, and could be up to this much. That's really what this is saying. So we're making that statement to our public. It can be less. When you adopt the budget, it can be less, but it cannot be more.
Clint, when do you anticipate having the information to accurately give these estimated amounts?
Well, they said possibly at the end of this week, we'll get the funding formula. Possibly.
Okay,
but the funding formula comes from the state,
That's correct.
not the county.
do we realistically anticipate receiving it prior to sending this in?
Of course, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I think any action we take, I think we'd like to see it before you send it in with the final numbers.
Oh, I can share with you,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
But I need a resolution today because we have to notice the county.
I understand that.
Okay.
But that way we'll have the information with us going into or preparing for the coming budget and the,
Yes,
Right.
I will, when I have an estimate of this, I will absolutely share with the board all of it.
Would it be premature to schedule a budget meeting even, and then cancel it? If say something happens in 2 weeks before our next board meeting, do we want a placeholder for a budget meeting?
We won't have this in 2 weeks. We won't know in 2 weeks.
Okay.
I think we should do that before July 1, June 30.
Hi,
Okay,
Yeah,
so we won't have the
I-
information by then.
We will not have that before
That's
then.
Okay.
We'll be lucky to have a full estimate the week before the July 20th. Just telling you.
What would you recommend the resolution read?
The resolution should read, asking for a resolution to notice Cedric County of our intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second it. Jiminy.
That was quick.
Jeremy was excited.
He was ready.
At least let him get the last word out.
I know. Okay, I have a motion by Bennett, a second by Norton to notice the county that we are
Our intent,
of our intent to exceed
the
the
revenue
revenue
neutral
neutral
rate.
rate for this coming 21-22 year.
correct?
Okay.
You have to do it every year. So.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion
Okay,
passes
so-
6-0.
Now we can schedule
Yes.
budget workshop, which is our meeting to go over the budget, what happened with last year's budget, what we intend, where we're putting money for next year's budget. And that's when we ask for the resolution or approval to publish our notice of hearings, which we'll have 2 this time. And August, I mean, really, I know the school starts the week of the 16th, first day of school, I believe is the 18th. So if you guys wanted to meet like that week, we could.
It's regular board night is the 16th, is it not?
Is it?
Regular
Is it?
board meeting.
We could do it that night.
We can do them earlier. I mean, I don't know how long they'll take.
Last year, last 2 years, really, we've been right at an hour.
So, and the R, I'm going to call it the R&R meeting.
It'll all be part of it. That's the
You mean,
workshop.
you think both of them would fit into
Yeah,
1
that's the
hour?
workshop. We'll
So
go
we
over
could
all
just
that.
set a separate, 2
It'll be-
separate meetings. One, it's,
Nope, no, not at that one. At that one is just a budget workshop. I'll ask for 2 resolutions. One for a hearing for the budget, one for the hearing on the revenue neutral rate.
oh, okay.
And then those hearings can't be before August 20th and have to be before September 20th.
Okay. I just had them backwards.
So if we did the 16th, would be perfect, we would publish at the end of that week. And then that would be plenty of time for us, possibly even the September, to add our hearings to our regularly scheduled September, which is the 20th.
Oh, there
Be
you go.
on or before.
That'd be good. Okay, so if you've got a chance to look at your calendars, does 6 p.m. on the evening of the 16th work for you? That's an hour before our regularly scheduled board meeting for August.
We need to put a little wiggle room in there and make it like 5:30.
Sure.
I mean, this is something we've never done before. So if there's questions, I don't want to be up against the clock and say, whoops, now we got to set another special meeting.
I don't have any problem with that.
Say August.
August 16th.
Should be fine for me.
I think Dr. Burke's still checking his calendar.
Are you still checking your
I have
calendar?
a conflict.
How about Mr. Hirsch?
Nah.
Remember, August 16th is our regular board meeting night.
So 6 o'clock still?
5:30.
5:30, all right.
So,
Sorry. I missed
First,
that.
does that work with your calendars? Does anybody have any problem with it? All right, then we would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to have a special board meeting on August 16th at 5:30 to discuss the R&R.
No, the budget
Budget
workshop.
workshop.
We're doing a budget workshop.
Budget
R&R 's
workshop.
the next time around.
That's correct.
All right, we got too many things going on.
I know, I have
Have a
that.
budget workshop on August 16th at 5:30.
Second.
All righty, I have a motion by Gibson and a second by Bennett to set a special meeting on August 16th at 5:30 PM for budget workshop for the district. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
All right, so now you don't have to schedule the hearing dates at this point in time. At the budget workshop, I'll ask for a resolution to publish the budgets, publish the notice of hearings. And if it works though, we could hold both hearings on the regularly scheduled board meeting night of September 20th.
Oh, that'd be cool. All right, so we will look at that after this budget meeting, workshop.
Yep.
All right. Thank you. Okay. It's 8 o'clock. go into 6.0. We have some action items, a policy change regarding early graduation and graduation requirements. And I believe Mr. Morford sent us information regarding that.
No, well, he did for the handbook.
Okay.
The policy changes are to make it sync up with the handbook.
Okay. I know that, I believe one board member had a question. The notes indicated that several students were failing at the end of this year due to the COVID issues. And they were asking if he was able to get actual numbers for those. Did you hear back from him? Debbie, have we? Okay. If, we would appreciate it if we could go ahead and follow up with those. So as soon as he gets those to us, maybe send them out.
Keep in mind, he's on vacation this week and he gets July off.
Slacker.
His contract.
No, I'm just kidding. But if we can make a note to do that, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah, if I hear from him, I'll send those right out to you.
Okay,
When I hear from him, I will send those right out to you.
thank you. Okay, and so, did anybody else have any questions regarding those, changing those requirements to make them sync up?
Do you need a,
I do, please.
I move that we make the policy changes as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Norton and a second by Gibson to make the policy changes as presented regarding the graduation requirements. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. And the school-based health clinic.
Okay, just to give you updated information, we do not have the contract yet. We're still working with the attorneys. They're still doing evaluation. Our attorney is with KASB, and they were doing their legal spring workshop 2 days last week, so they're a little behind. We are asking a little bit unusual. We're asking for a resolution to approve going forward pending contract agreement. The reason for it, twofold. One, it would allow us a little in-house cleanup. We would get the rooms painted and that kind of stuff, so very minimal cost because I have a summer paint crew and all that right now. And two, we would be able to add this to our ESSER 2 funds application, which we really do need to get in the first part of July, submitted, and we'd be able to add this to it. The contract would still come back to the board in July. If, of course, at that point in time, we do not have an agreement because of the contract, then we're good to go. No harm, no foul. We don't have to spend the money on that, even though it's in the application to the ESSER funds, but we can't do it the other way around. We can't put it in the application to the ESSER funds and then say, yeah, or not put it in the application to the ESSER funds and say, yeah, we're going to do it, and then have the money in a timely manner. So it's kind of reverse. We worked really hard with the attorneys. Don't really have any red flags at this point in time. Just wanting to make sure they dot all the I's and cross all the T's.
I did have just a couple of thoughts, and this is just for just to confirm my mental understanding. Who is it within the district who's actually going to be in charge of it?
Well, Linda Long will be our liaison.
Okay, I thought maybe Beth was.
Well, Beth will oversee like the medical and our nurse coordination.
Mhm.
So really, I mean, it's a collaboration, but the idea, of course, is the additional social services we want to provide to students, the mental health services, all of those. Linda's going to help coordinate that with the principals and everybody involved.
And how does this fit into her work schedule that's already full-time?
It's kind of what she does now. She's student support services. She covers all of that. So
Okay.
she also has access to all of those outside resources. So as we're working through issues with students, that's when we bring her in.
And also, my question was, have we made any more paving of the relationship for the Haysville Family Med Center? I'm actually really highly concerned about that relationship and that this being perceived as a competition, because I think we need to build the community and not inadvertently build a line or.
I can only tell you from our discussions that if we are willing to accept students without insurance and students on state and federal insurance, they'll be happy.
Because
They take very little.
okay, I thought they do take,
They
but
do,
that's
but it's
not
very
their
little.
preference.
Right.
I believe they said at the last meeting that they were supportive of it.
They are.
Yeah. And to be sustainable, we have to be able to increase our patient load.
That's correct.
So right now, we're opening it to students and staff.
Students, just students.
Paperwork all says students and staff.
Well, the intent is to move it towards staff. Well, yeah, I mean, if they have students, staff, how do we put this? A lot of staff members bring their students to our school district.
Mhm.
So those students will be eligible.
Okay, do we need to discern that in the text?
No, it's just, they will, it'll be a pediatrician. So that pediatrician won't be able to serve adults.
But we're also having a social emotional
That's correct.
element. Is
That's
that
correct.
specific to pediatrics as well?
Yes, because we're doing the tele-mentoring.
Okay. Okay. I wonder if, I know you guys have already done all this work. Just bear with me. We have an advisory board for this group.
We have the leadership team that has been on it.
Have we asked members of the community and the businesses and the medical fields to perhaps be part of an advisory board?
Well,
for it?
remember, it's not our clinic. We're partnering with KU Med. They have their own board and their own governance over the clinic itself. We're simply hosting it. There is a difference there. We're just providing a facility for our constituents to access healthcare. But we will not be in control of the level of care unless we extend our contract as far as what we bring. I mean, the physicians in them are bound by their own regulations as far as their quality of care and those kinds of things. What is in the contract is if we have, for example, a dispute, it's not going well, we have the community's outrage, we are able to get out of the contract. That's the idea. But we won't have a board of governance over the clinic.
The language in the document also said that it would include, I think, visual and dental services, but then you guys said, no, that was later.
Yeah, that's for hope in the future.
Okay, but it's in our language has been presented to us.
Yes, and for example, if a student has visual issues, they can see the pediatrician for those things.
Okay, I just feel like whatever we're presenting is not actually what we're doing.
I believe it's a full clinic.
Because it says we're doing students and staff, it says we're doing vision, it says we're doing dental. Sorry, I didn't mean to quiz you on this one.
No, I'm just wondering where it says we're doing student and staff.
I didn't memorize it. Get the right document.
Remember, this was all in the exploration of what we were looking at for a clinic, and what we agreed upon was 5-day a week, half days, full clinic pediatric, and then the tele mentoring.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I don't know where it is within those 24 pages. I know that the full breadth of patients was a couple of different times.
Yeah. Well, remember that PowerPoint presentation was a lot of the development of this and what we were looking at originally, including information about the survey that went out to our constituents and what they needed. And
So
those were
it kind of
just-
feels like, do we have Valley Center's presentation? Because we'd like one that's specific to what we're doing.
We do. That's what's in the document here, and that's what will be specifically in the contract, and which is just the two items, which is a full clinic, pediatric manned clinic, 5 days a week, half days at Haysville Middle School, and the telementoring.
Okay. But that, okay. So
Slide
the
number
final
20.
contract will actually say.
Slide number 20 says this clinic would provide mental health and medical care to students and staff.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
So if this is what KSB lawyers are reviewing,
It is.
the language you would say, staff.
No. I've had that discussion with them.
Okay, so.
Yeah.
It doesn't match up or marry up the presentation with the contract.
Right. And
What are you wanting approved tonight again?
okay, let me clarify here.
Okay.
The telementoring is the working with our staff. Telementoring is where they are going to come in and help our SIT teams that are focusing on students, and they're going to mentor our staff. You know, each school has a SIT team that evaluates students and how they're doing. When they get to the point where they may need additional services, that's the telementoring. That's where a physician and a psychiatrist and them are going to work with our staff and advise them on how to serve those students best.
So did I just hear you say that we're not going to be giving services to staff? We will be assisting our staff to give services to students.
That's the
Is that
point.
designation?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Is that-
And that's the language we're looking for.
Gotcha.
You probably told me already. Did they give us a guesstimate on the contract
As far
timeline?
as,
When
we'll
do
have
they
it for
think
the
they'll
next
have it
board.
ready?
We will have it for the July board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So right now, we're looking at approval to begin the
Yeah.
school-based
It's just-
health
it's just-
clinic
it's Just
pending
approval pending contract, approval of school-based health clinic pending contract agreement. 'Cause if
board
you- right.
approval of contract.
Yeah, if you don't approve the contract in July, then
Right.
we don't go forward. And I was trying the best I could to get the contract this month. It
Okay.
just wasn't going to happen.
I make a motion to approve the school-based health clinic pending acceptance of the contract.
By the board.
Yeah, the
I
board
just
has
feel
to
like
approve the contract.
Right, it needs to, as opposed to them just handing it to the school. Contract.
I'll second that.
Okay.
And KASB approval. Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
part of the, yeah. Gotcha.
I guess, don't get me wrong, I'm very, very excited about this, by the way.
Sure.
I think it's going to be a tremendous asset. I just
Well,
want to
the-
hope, make sure we get it started right.
Well, the initial plan, that their initial wish list from all of them was over $1 million. So we don't have
Woo.
that kind of money.
Hello, Esser.
It had to be pared down.
Okay.
So one of the slides says the plan is to open the clinic in August 2021.
Correct.
When school starts.
AU is ready. They're ready to bring in staff. We will need to do some painting and so the rooms over at the middle school, and that's really it.
That'll be the physical hardware and also the telementoring
Correct.
piece of it. I mean,
Correct. Yeah.
the computers, the user IDs, the whole thing
Yep.
when school starts,
That's correct.
all contingent on the contract.
In July.
And ESSER funds covers it.
And ESSER funds covers it.
But we need to do it now so that we can,
Apply to the ESSER
Apply for
funds.
ESSER
We need
funds.
to get that application in.
right? Yeah.
Will the IT be provided by us or KU?
KU will provide their own IT and they'll have certain logins, and there's some of our staff that will help with scheduling. They'll have to get trained on theirs and have to sign off on it. But we'll provide the internet because it's our facility.
Well, I know it's petty, but it might help to clean up some of the slides that are dated August of 2019 and Valley Center
The
and
13,
make it,
14 one in there.
make it ours. I know it's,
I agree. But remember, we've gone over this for multiple months and it's.
no, I understand. I just, because it becomes a living document or actual approval document in July,
Sure. Well,
if we approve the
yeah, there
contract.
will be a complete separate contract that you will have ahead of time for July.
I know, but the evidence needs to match
I would agree.
dates, times,
So
cost.
can we request of whoever has developed this particular presentation to edit it to be specific to what our plan is?
Sure.
That'd be good to have that also at the July when we have the contract.
I'll have them pare it down.
Thank you. All right, I have a motion by Bennett, a second by Norton to approve the school-based health clinic pending contract approval by the board. Is there any discussion?
Is that how you have the motion, Debbie? Okay.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you all.
Thank you. All righty.
Hopefully you had an opportunity to read the Cedric County Mitigation Plan. And again, we've been working on this since I think we started in 2018. Is that
We're
not
gonna do
what-
the enrollment fees first.
Oh, enrollment fees.
That's what I do. He's like
Yeah.
me. I guess my thought on this is I understand the need and the logic. I'm still not sure that this is the time or this is the year for it because we're already going to be doing so many different adjustments. And I don't want to take any more from the families.
As the other side of that question, what do we have available for folks that just can't make this happen? Do we have assistance? What?
We do, absolutely. And part of the enrollment process, individuals that have, that meet the qualifications do not pay any of these fees. So those that meet reduced fees pay half if they can. And those that can't pay them all at one time, we allow them to pay the payments over the years.
How does that information get out to the parents? Does
We-
that happen at enrollment?
It does. We share all that with enrollment. And then if they tell us right then, I don't have the money for that, we say, okay, here are your options. And the ladies all provide exactly what they need. I will tell you it's preliminary, but this money goes into our textbook replacement, our curriculum replacement. So it's our textbook fund. And that fund is going down this year again, and it has been going down. So without ESSER funds, we may not have been able to afford the new digital curriculum that we adopted this year. We wouldn't have those funds. Now, this is not going to replace it, so it won't be enough.
Jen's nodding her head. Can we ask Jen to weigh in on this?
Well, we don't have enough funding, and what we're getting right now from enrollment
Right.
isn't helping us at all because we're so far out of adoption on so many different content areas that we can't keep it up because we're paying, just like we paid this year for science and math to keep up, which depletes that fund even more.
Right.
And we're not getting enough to build back up. And so next year we'll be out of subscription for English language arts and elementary science, which I think I've covered. So we're good there. And then secondary math.
So how do we change this pattern?
We start building back from enrollment costs so we can start building that up so we can get back on track with our 6-year adoption process. This has been the case for many, many years.
Right, that's why I was wondering, how do we get it turned around and stop doing that?
This is the first step, I would say. It's not gonna completely fix it, but it's a step in the right direction.
It is one step in addressing the lack of revenue for those materials. But if you remember correctly, over the last basically 10 years between block grant funding and freezing and court cases and not getting our increase, this was one area that was easy to neglect because it didn't mean someone was losing their job. And so we neglected this area.
How long has it been since we increased enrollment fees?
Since before I've been in this position, so well over 10 years.
Dr. Berg, do you have a better idea of how long it's been? Since just over 10 years, do you?
Golly,
I can't remember the last time.
14.
I can see the need there, and I understand your concern with the people that are struggling as it is. But we've got to consider what our kids and educating our kids. If we don't keep up, just like this year where we replaced so much math and science, if we get too far behind on this, folks, we're going to be really struggling. And maybe we need to just go up instead of $25, go up $10 this year and go up 25 next year and catch up or something. But I think we're so far out looking at this, we're so far wacko out of line. And I know some of these other school districts got a lot more money than we've got, and they're still collecting a lot more enrollment fees than we do. So I really think that we need to do something to get us more in line with where we are, to get this ship righted and headed in the right direction. Because right now, the ship's kind of stalling in the water and the anchor's down and we're not going anyplace. So I think we need to do something one way or another, whether it's increase it proportionally like $10 or go the full 25. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, after we get these numbers, we're wacko on our numbers.
It's just a hard time to do it.
Well, I mean, it's
You
not
know-
just us. These other 7 school districts on here are having hard times too. I mean, it's not just the Haysville School District that
No, I
our
know.
people are not the only ones suffering out there. I understand it, but I think boards of the past have kind of let this go underwater and not paying attention to it. And as we all know in business, if we don't take care of things in a timely fashion, we get behind and then we have to play catch up and it hurts to catch up sometimes.
And the cost of things aren't getting cheaper
It's
either.
not going to get any cheaper.
I don't know that there's ever going to be a good time to do it.
I mean, you're right. You're right. But there could be worse times to do it, like this year.
There's bad, there's worse. Okay.
Right.
Yeah,
I
I mean, I don't know that there's a time that would not be bad. My only concern is if we've got folks, individual families, we're going to have to take care of them on an individual basis.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do.
Sounds like we do that now.
We do,
Yeah.
absolutely. And part of the enrollment this year will be a home economic survey. That's how we'll identify students who qualify for free lunch because of the school nutrition program is going to continue to feed everybody meals throughout the next year. So they will not be collecting that information. We'll have to collect that separately. So we even do risk having a reduction in our at-risk and high density at-risk aid over this next year if we can't get families just to fill out the form for us. And it does happen. It happened this year.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, so we either do nothing, or we put forth a motion to approve either as presented or any specific amount that you think is better.
I'll make a motion, we go with the $25 increase.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Gibson, a second by Crawford to approve the enrollment fees as presented of $25 per family, student, as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 4-2,
Thank you. I know that's a difficult decision.
and it was Crum and Fenster.
Add it to my tab.
Just as an added thought, I wonder if we might be willing to investigate the possibility of individuals or entities scholarshiping students. I think there may be at least a couple that would be willing to do that. That would still generate the revenue and would not.
I'll do it.
I think there would be several that would do that.
Okay, scholarshiping their enrollment fees?
Right.
Okay, I thought you were talking about their food.
No, this.
So, okay, I see
Oh,
that.
the $25, yeah.
You got enough of those, that would
Yeah.
help too.
I think that would be a nice thing to pursue.
Is that something the foundation could do?
Absolutely.
I would
That's-
think, yeah.
That would be.
I will tell you, in the foundation, we do receive donations for that every year, and that money does go to those students that are in need.
Okay.
Would it be possible to have some kind of a marketing push, since Adia is sitting behind me, that possibly letting the community know that this might be a possibility if you would like to participate, that we'd love to have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If we use the term scholarship, oftentimes that generates a notion of thousands and thousands of dollars. This would be an
Sponsorship.
opportunity to Yeah,
Sure.
this would be a scholarship opportunity that many more folks might be able to participate in.
Right.
In honor of a special teacher, in remembrance of a family member, all that good stuff.
Whatever moves your boat.
So that you'll make that happen?
Yes,
Yes?
sure.
Thank you.
Bet.
Good idea, Susan. Okay, all right. And now I think we're going to go to the mitigation plan.
Yep, so hopefully you've had an opportunity to look at it. Just as a reminder, we really started working with the other districts and Cedric County for a countywide mitigation plan back in 2018. I believe they approached Dr. Burke to start with, and we've had several members serve on that committee. The two items that the district, and if you, I didn't send out the entire mitigation plan to you. I'll send out the resolution because I believe the plan is like 600 pages. Because it involves all of those. But I did pull out the part for USD 261, which really, again, we're pretty much there when it comes to our hazards of tornadoes and windstorms with our storm shelters based on the last bond. So we're in good shape there. And then, of course, just an awareness campaign of the risks when it comes to all hazards. And this includes from weather to chemicals to all of those things, and just raising that awareness. There hasn't been any funding. There initially was going to be some funding from the Cedric County Commissioners for districts to be able to do some additional. As soon as that's funded, we do have that obligation to bring that in. And then there's been discussion in the past for example, Campus High School is a site that we could use in a county emergency situation for dispensing of medications and those kinds of things if we needed to. And that's what this resolution is all about, is our agreement to participate in this mitigation plan.
So there's no funding that comes directly from us. It's going to be passed through.
That's correct.
And it's more just the continuation of the agreement because we just haven't received the funds that
Well,
we were
and
supposed to
they
start
haven't
with.
finalized it. This is
Right.
and I apologize for the late notice. Received this last week or the week before from Cody, and he was told to have it by July. So he's been trying to get every school district in the county to get the resolution passed.
So I did hear that there's, even though there's money, there's numbers tied to this thing, there's no money of ours tied to this.
That's correct.
I want to be absolutely sure I know where
That is
that's
correct.
going. Okay.
And if the money doesn't come in, we just don't do these things.
That's correct. Unless we can do things that are at no cost.
Right, okay.
For example, we can do things on our social media and that kind of stuff. We can share that. And there's no cost.
Is there a school in the district that still needs a safe room?
No.
Okay, I was just reading USD number 261-2, and it
Yep.
has $1 million, so.
Okay. That was their estimate. Now, if we end up building a new school, here's the other part of this. If we agree to this and there is FEMA money, if we haven't agreed to the mitigation plan, we can't access it.
Okay, so even if they funded the 0.2 right now, we can't use it because we don't have a school that needs it.
Correct. But
We can't use it on anything else.
not at this point. Well, it depends on how it's funded. If it's funded specifically for storm shelters, no. Unless we're wanting to build another storm shelter.
Well, it would be nice to help with a new school storm shelter.
That's correct.
But this is basically saying, yes, we agree to this so that we can have access to future
That is correct.
FEMA or grants and things like that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Let me see if I am going to say this right. I'll move to finalize the mitigation plan with Cedric County as presented. Is that where it needs to?
Perfect.
Okey-doke.
Second.
Unless somebody wants to read that agreement.
No, thank you.
I have a motion by Norton and seconded by Gibson to approve the finalization of the Cedric County mitigation plan as presented. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Dr. Schutte. And Peting.
And then I do apologize again for these being on there. I had actually forgotten we had gone out to this. If you remember correctly, in our capital outlay, you had approved paving in several locations. One of the concerns came up with the west parking lot at Campus High School and what could we do about it. So we looked into the cost of concrete. We looked into the cost of resurfacing, and we were advised with some specific specifications. And that's what we put out as far as a bid on this. We are asking for Pave the Way to be approved. It does look like it's higher. However, Kansas Paving does not meet the specifications, and they wanted an additional 90,000 to meet what we had originally asked for. And so you'll notice it is handwritten on their bid when it's sent in to us. This would prioritize the Campus High School West parking lot. We wouldn't do some of the resurfacing of the other parking lots this year. We'd have to put those to next year's capital outlay. However, this would give us an estimated life expectancy if we continue to maintain that parking lot for another 20 years. And cost of concrete was just under $400,000.
Question, since it's the west parking lot, what does that do for the kids who buy their senior spot and paint it this year?
They'll still be able to. We were assured that they'll be able to come in, do the milling, do the resurfacing. They're actually going to change some of the grades so we get better drainage off to that side, the west side towards Meridian, where we have the drainage from Cedric County. So the idea to get that, and they would still in August be able to come in and do their spots.
And then when they resurface
Well,
again?
yeah, they actually encourage us to do that. The painting of those spots actually helps in the maintenance of blacktop. So we encourage it. Please buy a spot.
Some of them have had a lot of paint on them.
Some of them are much higher than others.
I know. Yes, I
A little
know.
speed bumps.
Yeah.
Mine is a little elevated.
I'll make a motion to approve the paving contract with Pave the Way for $140,693.
Second.
All righty, I have a motion by Gibson and a second by Bennett to approve the Pave the Way contract for $140,000, $693. Put the dollar in there early. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion
Thank you very
passes
much.
6-0. Thank you. And first readings, we're at 7.1, rehired, retired teacher work agreement. I believe Dr. Clegg, you said it was just the dates
Right.
that were changed and updated. Does anybody have questions on that? All right, super. We'll look at that again next month. And 7.2, premium pay. Dr. Schutte?
All right. So if you remember correctly, we had a discussion about potentially using some ESSER funds for what we had called at the time as a bonus for staff who have worked during this pandemic. And under the federal audit guidelines, we're advised that that type of compensation is not allowed. There was some additional guidelines that came out later, including the ability to do a premium or incentive pay. And the purpose of this is to be able to, over the next year, to offer staff members an additional $1,000 in compensation out of ESSER funds paid out throughout the year. It is an incentive for them to stay employed to hopefully offset the need or the lack of employees due to the pandemic situation. And that is allowed under the federal guidelines. And so that's what we've come back for. We did also talk with the Haysville Education Association, wanted to make sure they're aware because during negotiations this had come up. They are in complete agreement of this idea, of course. As you can imagine, they probably would be. So we agreed to bring it to the board as a first read, does not have to have any action tonight. We will come back again for a second read in July.
Does this, I assume it takes effect for everybody who's employed August 1.
Correct.
What about for people we hire past that time? Will they receive the same benefit? And will it be the full 1,000 or will it be prorated?
It will be prorated over the year.
Okay.
So based on their payments, because not all our employees get the same number of payments. Some get 10 payments, some get 12 payments.
Right, but they
depending
wouldn't
on-
get a full $1,000.
They would not.
If
So
they
if
came
they're
in
hired in November, it would be prorated that amount for the remainder of the year, because remember, it is an incentive to stay employed. Same goes true with an employee that starts with this, who starts receiving this and then quits. They would not get the remainder of that money.
I have one other question. Reading through the paperwork that you provided, can we use this money to also basically hire additional staff to relieve the classroom congestion, things like that, additional social workers?
Yes, if it's due to COVID pressures.
Right. I know we've been working on social workers for several years.
I will remind you, however, there is a limitation on these funds. So if you spend $1 million in hiring additional staff, ESSER 3s run out in 2024. After 2024, if you haven't built that into your budget, you no longer have the funding to pay those staff. So
Right. So obviously, if we did, we would make a plan for that.
if you can.
As this reads, is this for teachers and support staff?
It's all staff.
Oh, everybody,
That's correct. Not subs, sorry.
not
All
subs.
employed.
Okay.
These are individuals hired for positions.
So an hourly secretary.
Correct?
Okay.
We don't want to have a shortage of them either,
Yes,
Amen.
yes, thank you.
which we need them.
Right.
Amen.
Paraeducators, all of those.
Amen.
Bus drivers.
Cooks.
So are we going to run into a problem next year's contract with the employees?
Well, this is for a specific year.
That's why I'm saying, when they no longer get this and their pay drops back, whatever the magic number happens to be, are we going to get pushback when we go into negotiations next year saying, wait a minute, you can't cut us back? Or is this one of those things we're going to say, excuse us, but this was something special?
They are aware of that, and very similar to those one-time payments we've paid. For example, this year we gave a $500 bonus. You paid for that out of general fund, could not come out of ESSER funds, and they're not going to get that next year. It's not planned.
I understand. There's a difference between a special bonus than
Yep.
adding to every paycheck.
Correct.
And then the significance of people saying, wait a minute, my paycheck went down, how come?
I will be just
Guess that's
straightforward with
somebody
you.
else is gonna be.
We will have some that say that, yes.
I mean, they're gonna forget. Trust me, by the 1st of September, some of them forgot what that extra
Well,
money.
they won't completely forget, because every paycheck will have a separate line that specifically says
Question.
premium incentive pay. So we can track those dollars.
If they read it.
You're right.
If they
We
read
read from top. Yes.
And we'll help them.
I just, it's your workload, not mine, so that's okay.
How did you come up with the number of $1,000?
That's what was originally discussed when we were meeting with the Haysville Education Association about the bonus pay and that information. So that is what, it is also under the statute what's considered reasonable for the area. So I've had discussions with other districts that are proposing premium pay, and they're all between the 600 to 1,000 to 1,200.
Which that was a good explanation, but how did we land on 1,000?
Because that was the number that was previously proposed.
Okay, so there's no statistics or data.
No,
Okay, okay.
it's also
I understand.
what we technically could afford at this time under our estimated amount for ESSER funds.
If we get less than 974 ESSER funds, we'll
We won't.
reduce, huh?
We won't.
You're awful confident.
We've already received notice of what the ESSER 3s are looking at.
Okay.
They're over 4 million.
Is the ESSER 3 the different acronym?
Yes. It's,
I see ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and this is just in.
well, I left it as ESSER, so as this goes on, if we need to tap into ESSER 3 funds, because those will become available about mid-year, then we could use those funds as well.
No, there was just one that had like a GAAR or something.
Oh, you're talking about CARES funds?
No, it wasn't CARES.
GEER.
GEER.
What is that fund?
It was, I don't know what discussion it was in here, but it was in line with the same thing as ESSER 1 and ESSER 2. I don't even know if it was in this document.
Those
It's on page 46.
those are separate funds, the GEAR funds. Those are just under the federal guidelines. We've only received ESSERs. We have not received GEAR.
And we won't be.
No.
Okay, thank you. I just didn't know what that was. Okay. Do we have any other questions about it?
Payments, this would start with their, I'm sorry, the paychecks September, August?
That's correct. It depends on when they start.
Okay.
And it would not start until after the board has approved it. And the way federal funds work is we would have the payroll. I'd then pull up a summary of how much that was, and we would call for those funds.
Gotcha. Okay, thanks.
All right. Thank you. I'm glad that I appreciate you doing the research on that, so that we could
I
look
wasn't the only one, trust
into a
me.
way.
There were
Yes.
lots of
Because we want to be able to
conversations.
take care of our people. All right, future agenda items.
Well, we have the first readings. It's a long list to go down, isn't it? Okay, the retired, rehired teacher work agreement, premium pay, and as listed on the board calendar, the organizational meeting,
Right.
which is big.
And I had asked Dr. Burke earlier, we had scheduled the ASA contract review in May. And he reminded me that having a new
Athletic director.
athletic director, that we are putting that off until August. So this person has a chance to get in and look at the contract and be able to have at least a tangible informational say. So.
I also have a crisis safety report
That's
for
correct.
July.
Now, what'd you do?
I was looking at June. Okay. Don't ask. I was still correct in what I said. Okay.
So it'll be okay if I just take, oh wait, this is connected.
Yeah, you
No,
take
it
the whole,
isn't.
take the whole thing.
You can take the
There
whole
we go.
thing.
Hey.
Oh, look at that.
That's for you, Jeff.
Yay. Okay.
It's been wedged in there pretty hard.
Well, it's been a while.
What, 18 years?
18 years. Yeah.
We haven't adjourned the meeting yet, so
So you
Yeah.
can't do that.
He's anxious to get out of here.
pump the brakes, will you?
We need
I can start my car from here.
Funny. All right. Unless we have anything else, I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for coming. Hope you have a wonderful evening.
All right.
Thank you, sir, for a lovely 18 years.
My pleasure. Thank you all. You guys are the best board I've ever worked for. Thank you.
Thank you.
But like the Haysville board or these 7?
Yeah.